Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink.
Jimi Hendrix moved to London in 1966 and formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience with bassist Noel Redding and drummer Mitch Mitchell. It was during his time in London that he caught the attention of British rock icons such as Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Pete Townsend, who were blown away by his unique and innovative guitar playing style. Hendrix's performances at clubs such as the Bag O' Nails and the Marquee, as well as his appearance at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967, where he famously set his guitar on fire, solidified his reputation as a guitar god. His use of feedback, distortion, and wah-wah pedals, combined with his incredible fingerwork, made him one of the most influential guitarists of all time. Hendrix's creative vision and talent not only revolutionized the sound of rock music, but also inspired generations of musicians to come. His untimely death in 1970, at the age of 27, left an indelible mark on the music world and cemented his status as a guitar legend. There were 4 distinct methods Hendrix used to create his dramatic new sound. Use of feedback and distortion. Hendrix was one of the first guitarists to intentionally use feedback and distortion as a creative tool. He experimented with different types of distortion and used feedback to create unusual sounds and textures. Incorporation of the blues. Hendrix was deeply influenced by the blues, and he incorporated elements of this genre into his playing. He used bluesy scales and chords, and his solos often had a fluid, improvisational feel. Technical prowess. Hendrix was an incredibly skilled guitarist, and he was able to play fast and intricate solos with ease. He used a combination of picking, hammer-ons, pull-offs, and vibrato to create a wide range of sounds. Use of effects pedals. Hendrix was an early adopter of effects pedals, and he used them to create a range of different sounds. He frequently used a wah-wah pedal to create a distinctive vocal-like effect. Today, these lines of expression are commonplace, but you have to realize this was the late 60s when people like Julie Andrews was top of the charts singing about the hills are alive with the sound of music. This was alien tech, this was brutal, raw, and invigorating, this was genius. Hendrix's guitar playing was a perfect storm of technical ability, creativity, and innovation. His playing style was unlike anything that had been heard before, and it inspired a whole generation of guitarists to experiment and push the boundaries of what was possible. James Marshall Jimi Hendrix was born on November 27, 1942, in Seattle, Washington. He was the eldest of 5 children, and his parents, Al and Lucille Hendrix, struggled to make ends meet. Despite their financial difficulties, they encouraged their children to pursue their passions, and Jimi was drawn to music from an early age. In his teens, Jimi played in various bands around Seattle, honing his skills as a guitarist and developing his distinctive playing style. He joined the U.S. Army in 1961 and was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where he played in the 101st Airborne Division's band, the Screaming Eagles. However, he was discharged from the Army in 1962 after injuring himself during a parachute jump. After leaving the Army, Jimi moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where he worked as a session musician and played with a number of local bands. In 1964, he moved to New York City, where he met and played with a number of famous musicians, including Little Richard and the Isley Brothers. However, it wasn't until he moved to London in 1966 that his career really took off. In London, Jimi formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience with bassist Noel Redding and drummer Mitch Mitchell. They quickly gained a following in the city's music scene and caught the attention of British rock icons such as Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Pete Townsend. They were blown away by Jimi's unique and innovative guitar playing style. One of the most famous anecdotes about Jimi's time in London involves his appearance at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. According to legend, Jimi set his guitar on fire during his performance of Wild Thing, creating an iconic moment in rock history. However, as biographer Charles R. Cross notes in his book, Room Full of Mirrors, a biography of Jimi Hendrix, the story of the burning guitar has been embellished over the years, and there is no definitive evidence that it actually happened. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the guitar burning incident, there is no doubt that Jimi's performance at Monterey Pop was a turning point in his career. The festival introduced him to a wider audience and solidified his reputation as a guitar god. He went on to release a number of iconic albums, including Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland, and toured extensively throughout the late 1960s. Jimi Hendrix moved to London in September 1966, and he spent most of the next 2.5 years there, until mid-1969. During his time in London, he recorded 3 studio albums with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, toured extensively in the UK and Europe, and made a number of high-profile appearances on TV and radio. In 1969, Jimi returned to the U.S., where he headlined the Woodstock Festival and played a number of other large concerts and festivals. However, he continued to struggle with drug addiction and personal issues, and his performances became increasingly erratic. He spent much of his last year touring and recording with a new band, the Band of Gypsies. But his health continued to decline, and he died on September 18, 1970, in London. Jimi Hendrix's sales numbers are difficult to quantify, as there have been numerous reissues and compilations of his music over the years. However, he is widely considered to be one of the best-selling musicians of all time, with estimated sales of over 75 million records worldwide. His debut album, Are You Experienced?, is often cited as one of the greatest albums in rock history, and many of his songs such as Purple Haze, All Along the Watchtower, and Voodoo Child, Slight Return have become iconic classics. Despite his relatively short career, Jimi Hendrix's influence on music and popular culture has been immense, and he remains a beloved and celebrated figure in rock history. In a 1967 interview with Guitar Player magazine, Hendrix talked about his love for blues and R&B music and how he incorporated those influences into his playing. I like Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson, Elmore James, and Lightnin' Hopkins. I like their blues because it's simple and direct. It's the same reason I like R&B, because it's so direct. In a 1969 interview with Rolling Stone magazine, Hendrix talked about his use of distortion and feedback in his guitar playing. I use a lot of fuzz and distortion, but it's not to be dirty or anything like that. It's to give it a certain sound that I like. It's like when you turn the treble up all the way on your stereo, everything sounds real sharp and crisp. That's what I'm trying to do with my guitar. In a 1970 interview with Melody Maker magazine, Hendrix talked about his experimentation with new sounds and techniques. I'm always trying to come up with new sounds and new ideas. I think that's what it's all about. You've got to keep pushing yourself to do something different and exciting. Tragically, Jimi's life was cut short when he died of a drug overdose on September 18, 1970, at the age of 27. His death was a huge loss to the music world, but his influence lived on, and he has continued to inspire generations of musicians to this day. As biographer David Henderson writes in "Excuse Me While I Kiss the Sky, The Life of Jimi Hendrix." Jimi Hendrix was a visionary who expanded the vocabulary of the electric guitar, a masterful songwriter, and one of the greatest live performers in the history of rock music.